Hi there, I'm Andrea Koppel, and it's time for coffee, the podcast where you get to hear firsthand what the jobs and careers that interest you the most are really like. Hey there, Java junkies. Welcome to another K-Cup mini episode of Time for Coffee. By the way, K-Cups come in 3 sizes, single, double, and triple shots, or roughly 1 minute, 5 minutes, or 10 minutes in length. So if you don't have time to throw back an entire caffeinated career conversation, these K-Cup mini episodes of T4C can give you a quick caffeinated fix, whether you're on the go or you only have a few minutes to binge. So grab your mug and take a chug, because it's time for a caffeinated career double shot K-Cup with my guest, Steve Blank. I'm guessing you've heard this before, but I want to share with you what I see as being another pattern that perhaps could be useful to our listeners. And I think it relates to the lean startup methodology in that if young people do what you did, which is to get outside their comfort zone, to try out different jobs in various companies or various fields to help them figure out kind of quickly what they like and maybe even what they're passionate about. And by the way, that's probably going to continue to evolve as they get older. That's what you did. Before you got to Silicon Valley, even, you kept innovating and figuring it out until you found the right fit. What do you think?
Yeah, I would say yes to all, and then kind of maybe double down a bit about what I've learned about entrepreneurs and founders. For those of your listeners who are thinking about entrepreneurship as a career, that's a mistake, because certainly being a founder or co-founder or even joining an early stage company, it's the world's worst job, period. End of discussion. It's a shitty job, but it's the world's best calling. And I want to make that distinction between a job and a calling. An accountant is a job. An artist is a calling. And there are categories in life of things that are jobs, that have job descriptions, pay well, you have training for, things are colored within those lines, etc. But there are other things that are callings that you don't know what your next painting is, or your next sculpture, or your next piece of music you're going to write, or play you're going to write. And that's where entrepreneurship fits. And so the closest thing to being a founder or an early employee is an artist, not an accountant. And so you ought to understand where you're most comfortable with. And it doesn't mean you have to choose for life, but I would understand those distinctions and figure out that you might want to apprentice in one or another to figure out where are you most happy. Does that help?
Yes. And I've also read you say that most people seek to minimize uncertainty and risk, which are obviously go hand in glove in an early stage startup. And they take a job with a defined career path, whether it be as a lawyer or a teacher, and certainly not to diss either profession.
Those are called normal people.
Those are called normal people, exactly. But it is not necessarily the right path for people who have that pull, what you've described as maybe a calling.
Yes. And I think if we categorize them between normal people with normal jobs, with they work to live, versus artists who live to work. And I will put entrepreneurs in that category. And that was, by the way, a mistake of entrepreneurial education for decades, is thinking we were simply, teaching another trade. And entrepreneur is not a trade. It's a craft. It's a craft like art, at least if you're a founder or an early employee. Later on, it becomes a repeatable company, and then there are job specs and job positions, etc. What I'm talking about is if you're in the early stage, the first 5, 10, 15 people, there is nothing predictable and nothing comfortable. And by the way, it's fun, but it's fun, like jumping out of the plane without a parachute and figuring you're going to pick one up on the way down. That kind of fun. And if that's exciting, then that's the place for you. And if that makes you uncomfortable, then 99% of the rest of the world is happy having a job. And there's no shame in that. It's just that if you want something different, understand who you are first.
Thanks for tuning in to this K-Cup mini episode of Time for Coffee. If you want to listen to our entire caffeinated career conversation, please check out the show notes for this episode. Thanks so much for listening to Time for Coffee, where the professionals in the jobs that most interest you always have time to grab coffee 24/7, no matter where you live. I have one quick favor to ask you. Remember to rate, review, and subscribe to Time for Coffee. Thanks so much.